So welcome everyone. We can actually kickstart, and thank you to our panelists for being here. So to our audience there, all of you are fully aware that sustainability is something that we've been hearing about from a long time now. But it's only now a lot of people are waking up to green jobs and sustainable careers. Today we have a very eclectic panel, so to say. I mean, really, I was looking at the profiles and um, it's a mix of people who are practicing sustainability, people who are at the end, who understand what recruiters are looking for, what students are looking for, and someone who's also actually living a very sustainable lifestyle. So we have a great mix of panel today. Let's do a quick round of introductions so that our audience knows the panel's background and they can ask their questions accordingly. So let's just get started. Donna, would you like to start?
Yes, good morning. My name's Donna Haynes. I work at the University of Southampton. I'm a regional director for a number of regions, including South Asia. Personally, sustainability and the green economy is something I take to my heart, and I'm looking forward to working with you all today.
Thank you so much, Donna. And we hope to get a lot of insights from you since you are passionate about the subject as well. Thank you so much. Sanju.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sanju Dominic from the University of Glasgow. I'm the regional manager for South Asia and been associated with the University of Glasgow for the past 6 years, but ever been since working with three different universities for the past 11 years with UK universities. But I think I put myself on my hat to say that I was a mechanical engineer back in the days, and I definitely, if I had this opportunity today, I would have definitely been thinking about sustainable jobs or green jobs is what we're going to talk about today. But I think, this is going to be a great platform to discuss and give us this information out. So I'm looking forward for this particular session, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanju. I hope you can inspire a lot of other people here who are just on the fence to think about green jobs. Thank you. Vidhi.
Yeah, hi everybody. This is Vidhi Balasira here. I am based out of Bombay. I run a sustainable fashion brand, a women's wear luxury brand, and I also have personally started blogging about how each of us on an individual level can incorporate sustainable practices in our day-to-day lives.
Thank you, Vidhi. I'm sure we'll have a very interesting discussion where sustainability meets fashion. So I'm sure that's an area a lot of people would like to ask questions on and explore themselves. So thank you. So Daryl, over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I come from a background of 17 years in industrial engineering, but then I transitioned from that into integrative natural medicine, which I've been practicing since the last 16 years now. And once I got into integrative mind, body, spirit medicine, I also started getting involved with organic food, organic farming. And when you get on the land, then you work with environment and sustainability. So I am the founder of Earthkeepers Connect. That is a platform. We have groups in about 10 of the metro cities in India. And over the last 10 years, we've been, through example and through our webinars and videos, inspiring people to make better choices in wellness, food, farming, and environment. And since this is going to be the third year that I'm the convener of the New Earth Summit. And its tagline is India's first integrative summit for solutions to our problems in health, food, farming, and environment. And it's going to be starting in November now, across the whole month. And in our next steps, we are developing an eco village in Goa over 1,000 acres. That is mainly to showcase what we're talking about. What is a self-sustained, space, village, state. And I would be happy to share some of those ideas today.
Thank you, Darren, and all the best for the summit. So let's just get started. For the panel's information, Donna would leave by 2:20. So let's just keep that in mind as well. So my first question, I would like to start with Donna, if that's okay. What really are green jobs? I mean, how do we define green jobs? What's the broad landscape of that, Donna?
Yeah, thank you. I think when you're looking at green jobs, you're looking at jobs that focus on climate change that's socially inclusive and low carbon. So resource management, ecosystem production, water conservation, but also looking at the green economy, which has to change. At the moment, the economy is driven by production and by continuous consumption, where we have to go to a more of a circular economy. And I think that Vidhi, who uses sustainable fashion, that isn't one of the big examples. So reusing sustainability. So for myself, I buy vegan shoes. I don't use leather. That's a small thing that you can do. And in moving into a green economy, we really need to everyone has to take part. It is not something that we can opt out of. And a circular economy means reusing, repairing, and also finding new ways to make sure the economic model isn't driven by just resource consumption.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donna, for highlighting the fact that we all really need to be part of it. Anyone else would like to take and give us another perspective on what are green jobs or sustainable careers? Anyone? Daryl, would you like to take a shot at that?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So just let me I'll lay the foundation basis of whatever I'm going to say today in this webinar as an Earthkeeper. So an Earthkeeper is a person who works at restructuring and rebalancing resources and people's habits on the planet so that humanity and Mother Earth can have a healthier and longer future. So, many reports from across the world show that we have non-renewable resources like, whether it's crude oil or minerals or water, etc., going out of stock in the next 20 or 10 years. And as per some recent reports, India does not have enough coal stocks for more than a few days for power generation. So it's pretty obvious that what we call modern technologies and our current city model of living are not sustainable. So I will speak on that perspective. So definitely we are not just looking at the next 25, 30 years. We are looking, at least if we are designing something now in an age that we call the next age, or the Dwapar Yuga, at least people in India know about that. It's about 2,500 years. So I will speak from that perspective of a longer term, not the next 25 or 100 years.
Okay, so at that point, Daryl, if I can just interrupt at this point, I'd like to take a view from Sanju and Vidhi and understand, is green jobs, are sustainable careers, is there a necessity right now? I mean, Daryl has spoken about the almost an emergency situation that we are all in with the resources depleting. So Sanju, do you think there is a necessity, or it is something that's
Okay, I think living in the new era of the world at the moment, having the pandemic, bringing us and giving us a realization to say, well, the world has stopped and a total shift over to today's world and the lifestyle that we have. But I think let's date it back a couple of years back to understand how important these green jobs or sustainability was there in everyone's mindset, rather than, everyone just talking about it. But I think, as I was trying to say during the old, probably I shifted around 7 to 8 years back, where a lot of, mindset of youngsters would always be, let me go do a traditional course. Let me just stick to a general engineering program or any biomed programs. But no one was thinking beyond that, how to sustain the world to come to have a better lifestyle. But over the years, there has been a very good shift of interest with these youngsters to look into, is to say, well, I've got this mechanical degree, I've got this electrical degree, but then it's more beyond, helping the mother nature and coming over to, sustainable related jobs. And what has been noticed has been within the industry, in the education industry for the past 11 years, in the year 2014-15 is where the surge of interest of youngsters looking at, opportunities to go and see how they can transform themselves into the sustainable world. But the problem at that point of time would be is, what about jobs? I mean, are there plenty of jobs available within the sectors? Is India as a country, opening up with more job opportunities like this? But so that is where, there was this few number of students, but then later on, I think the increase of, every company realizing that they need to have a department in sustainability and have green jobs gave up a eye opener to many of us to understand, get on to that kind of a mode. And with that mode, I think of late we have been seeing increase of a lot of students, once they complete the traditional course, going over to very niche related sustainable courses, just not across India but across the globe, and contributing towards green jobs and the ability, as what Daryl said, that towards the future. But then again, today, whatever work is done, it's not probably seen immediately. The impact is not seen immediately. It is years down the lane. So we are building a better future for our future, or for our future generations as well. But it is definitely a necessity of what green jobs is for the present days, is where I would probably conclude at the moment.
Thank you so much, Sanju. And yes, I think the house is absolutely unanimous that it is. So I would have my next question is actually for Vidhi, for someone who actually started her own venture in the sustainability space. So what led to your interest in sustainability? And I'm sure, I mean, from what I found out about your profile, you started much earlier on. So what led to your interest? And just give us some background on your journey here, Vidhi. You're on mute, Vidhi.
So I actually want to, share some feedback on what Sanju said. I completely agree. I think
Yes.
back when I started, which was in 2017, early 2017, there were not a lot of green jobs, right? People were obviously aware of, global warming as a crisis. People were talking about it. There were conversations happening. Of course, activists were, on top of the heads of the government and the companies to do something, but the career opportunities were not there. And I think just being passionate about sustainability actually started off with my my deeply rooted Ayurvedic practices that I actually learned. It's a very, very on a personal level from my grandmother, and just day-to-day practices at home that we used to do, whether it was using air drying practices versus using the machine, or it was just simply taking up space and probably growing some herbs and stuff in our own kitchen versus buying them from places like Food Bazaar and other departmental stores. And obviously when I was when I studied, I actually studied in the US. That's where I finished my education, and I came back to India. I realized that the potential was massive, because we have a resource that many countries don't, and that is human resource. Because of the population and so many people in India, out there, skilled artisans, especially in the fashion industry. There are thousands of skilled artisans who were forced to do to kind of make fabrics on a bulk level for manufacturers like H&M and Forever 21. And there weren't enough Indian companies that were making beautiful clothes that people would value and they would spend money on, which they will at the end of the day, when you spend money on something, more money on something, a large part of your savings, then it does give you an incentive to keep it for longer, to value it more.
Yes.
And that is where I felt that I needed to start a brand where it was, I think, that a space that I needed to tap into, where luxury clothes could be made on an eco-conscious level.
Okay, thank you, Vidhi. I mean, the very fact, I mean, it's great to hear that you bring out the fact that a lot of Indian practices, traditional practices, were very eco-friendly for so many years. I mean, from the hundreds of years, we were so eco-friendly, sustainable way of living. So, Donna, given what Sanju mentioned, and in fact, what Daryl just mentioned as well about, and the comment that Vidhi made that there were not too many green jobs, with the peaked interest in green jobs, how are universities adapting to this entire wake up call on climate change, and how are they adapting to this scenario right now, according to you?
Well, I think that all universities have sustainability as part of their strategy. And many universities, including Southampton, have not only courses that are sustainable, that focus on sustainability, but also they actually practice it because they are research led. In some cases, they will look at the way and that the methods that they're heating their universities, the design of the building designs of universities, so that they maximize their very low carbon and energy resource. So, for example, what if I look at a course like chemical engineering? That used to be an incredibly popular course among the petrochemical industry, and students would automatically want to go into that career sector. But now you see like a chemical engineering course being about renewable, about green energy, about sustainability, about the wind, tidal power and turbines, rather than moving into sort of fossil fuels. The other thing is to think about is that by 2030, there will be 24 million extra jobs within the green sector. And
Wonderful.
that might be, and if we look at just the creative industries, so that is not only fashion, but also artists using plastics, using reusing waste to create art and sculptures and design. And so I think that when we talk about the design and how universities adapting to that, it is we are market led, and we also have consciences. And if it's part of your strategy, you're going to design aspects of courses, all should have a green aspect and all should have something that leads to sustainability. And I think that I know that Glasgow certainly has that at its core, and Southampton, it's at its core as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Donna. So, Daryl, to the point that Donna made, that yes, corporate India and even institutions, universities are realizing that there is a need to include sustainability as part of their courses. But at a personal level, every individual has an opportunity to make a difference. So, what is the work that the Earthkeeper is doing at the ground level to make that shift happen in individual habits to inspire people to be more sustainable?
So there are two aspects of that work, and like I just mentioned earlier, that one is the popular form of society and living, which I call the concrete jungle, and that puts a cost on the earth, in the long term, the way the model is designed. So yes, we have people living in a city, and there are certain habits and actions that they can do, which I'll come to.
Yeah.
But what we're looking is at the population growing and many people living, leaving cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, and coming to Goa because the traffic and the stress and the pollution is so bad that they want to live in a place that's more green and open,
Yeah.
right? Now we have to understand is they are coming away from a failed model of living. And so, what we do in spaces, so this is my advice in green spaces and in our villages. Let us, and that's the work we do. We do a lot of education first to the people here on what is a local, self sustained, circular green economy by the people, for the people, where you create products, goods, and services in your own village or in your own state. So I work with another three organizations in India, and recently I was in Delhi for 5 days to integrate this model. And similar models have come up not only for India; they have designed it for the entire world. One of those organizations is called Gaia Earth Sansad. The next is Project Yug Parivartan. Another third organization is Awaken India Movement. And of course, Earthkeepers. I was on behalf of Earthkeepers. And we have come to this really, same conclusion that the future lies in educating people on how to make self-sustained states. Because you see, once you get your job, so this is what I want to say also about the kind of, so what we are planning in the next 10 years to have is that's the kind of education that needs to go in institutes right now. And my design document of the Eco Village in Goa really gives all those parameters where the new green technologies, so all the technologies that we use now for living, right, they have got green counterparts. So what we're working is backward from a greenfield project showing how new earth or pieces of new and good earth can happen. What are the sciences? And that's what we're doing through the New Earth Summit. And for the people who watch the summit, we say if you're in a greenfield project, then you can do all of these 100% of these actions. But if you live in already a developed village, maybe you can do 80% of those things, right? And if you live in the city, maybe you can adopt at least 50% of those things, whether it's putting a little green, a few plants of vegetable plants in your, growing tomatoes in your balcony, or not taking too much of packaged food products. I've done webinars on this, that simple packaged food products, they not only cost your health, but they are responsible for the sand mining, for cutting down of trees, for crude oil, and all of that. So
I think Daryl, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think the education is, the first part to the people, and it should go into the schools and colleges also, that there are better options and better, simpler sciences, that can keep us green. So I think that's the first part that we do.
Yeah. Okay. Daryl, I think what you just brought out is about the choices that people make. And you also spoke about how beneficial it is for everyone. So Sanju, Donna mentioned about University of Glasgow having some courses. Would you have any ideas on how global ed is also, helping support the cause of sustainability by preparing professionals in this area?
Absolutely. I think a lot of universities across the globe do contribute towards the interest within the youngsters to understand the need of getting into sustainable jobs. And that definitely we need to thank the researchers within these large universities that we see across the globe. And again, I've been a part of a consortium of universities and a lot of industries to actually work on the smart cities across the globe as well, across the world. And when I sit over those meetings, in the beginning it was like, okay, what's really happening towards this? But later on it started making a lot of sense. It is actually to control a lot of sustainable and lifestyle within the atmosphere itself.
Right. Yeah.
That's where the sustainable energy department, the engineering department, so it's a correlation of just not one particular area of subject, but it's a correlation of all the faculties, all the expertise to come into work. We will need data scientists also to kind of come up with ideas to say, okay, this is a place where a lot of other biodiversity is happening. A lot of people are migrating from certain cities and going, as Daryl said, these are failures of certain cities of having lifestyle, and that's why they're moving on. But how are we able to understand that the movement? So this has been done by people like within the across the factors as well. But apart from this, even when we talk about civil engineering students or coming over to urban, they're not going to the pure civil engineering related or construction engineering courses. They're looking more into urban planning, city planning, just to have that kind of outreach of this comfort level of everybody, where they're talking about green building constructions, and I was like, how can we do a green building construction with no much of dust? But there are scientists coming up with these kind of levels coming out, and all this is been designed within universities. And University of Glasgow, many of the other universities are contributing, and the research and the funding which universities get towards these kind of projects is much on the higher scale. And that's where it continues as research, where also students contribute towards that particular research, is where an interest towards when they complete to say, okay, I think I've got my direction. Okay, I am getting on to green jobs, and as the world and the future is going over, is where it's going to be a lot of opportunities where they are moving on to. Is a clear indication, which is a connect by the university, and with the expertise coming out from the researchers and the students, is what I kind of feel is coming out as well.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sanju. I think the fact that research funding is going into support the sustainable future augurs very well for the world. I was just wanting to pick up on Vidhi. You actually said it made sense for you to be in that space, but just for the benefit of the audience that is watching us, does being sustainable give you a competitive advantage as well in today's time? What is your view on that? Being in
Oh,
a
yes.
sustainable space. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, when it comes to fashion, a lot of things in fashion are actually driven psychologically more than logically. And people, like to hop on to trends. And there's a lot of peer mentality that comes into play when
Yeah.
it comes to, an industry like fashion. So definitely, I think last 7 to 10 years, because of the Copenhagen Fashion Summit every year, they come together every year and they discuss global fashion sustainability practices and how things can change, and overall how companies are kind of one by one joining the bandwagon. People are also understanding, and because certain companies have been able to market sustainability in a desirable and in a sexy way, people are being able to resonate more with, because see, you have to understand, not everybody is as passionate about the climate for whatever reasons. They might have financial issues, and let's face it, today not all sustainable practices,
Choices
and
are, yeah,
they're not price friendly.
accessible.
Not all of them
Yeah.
are price friendly, not
Yeah.
all of them are accessible to the mainstream, in the mainstream
Yes.
markets. So for whatever reason, not everybody is innately passionate about doing something for the environment, and it's not something that's constantly driving their businesses. So what companies are obviously doing is, for this to seem more desirable and for this to be accessible and for people to want to wear sustainable clothing, they're trying to make it luxurious. They're trying to market it in a more you can say visually appealing way. And I think that has been very helpful because it's created a trend. So, and I mean, there are there are side effects to that as well, because there's greenwashing that's happening, which is basically companies are claiming that they are using sustainable practices
Yeah.
just to get into the shopping lists of consumers. But they're not not even
Not there
nearly
yet.
sustainable.
Doing that. Yeah.
But I guess that's part of the challenge. But yeah, definitely there is a trend that you can see. There are fashion shows that are being led in places like Tokyo, in places like Canada, Copenhagen, where they are completely 100% sustainable, eco-friendly fashion designers are being given a platform to come to present. They're being funded, so that innovation can be encouraged.
Thank you, Vidhi. I think that's very encouraging to know. Donna, would you have any view on how sustainable also means more common sense or better business sense? What is your view on that, Donna?
Yeah, just before I go, I think I agree a lot with what Vidi's saying, that companies are jumping on the bandwagon. They're saying that this is a green product when it isn't. But I think that for example, while Vidi was speaking, I was just looking at some of the jobs that were available in the UK for environmental and climate change specialists. The companies that are advertising are banks for environmental specialists and consultants that will be able to advise them on the best practices in how they invest and how they work within the sector. Those are the sorts of in the UK particularly, and I think Sanju would agree with me, that most companies on where they might not have had, they might have had a health and safety specialist, they now want environmental specialists. They now want someone who's a sustainability expert, because they need that to make sure that they are hitting their own targets. And because it's driven also by youth and by their customers. So young people, you know, the Greta Thunbergs, a lot of white males in the UK around 50 don't particularly like, but she resonates with young people, and she resonates with people who are passionate about saving the planet. And so I think that when we talk about climate change, it might be a tick box for some companies, but they have to have these people on board if they are going to appear relevant. Otherwise they will become like dinosaurs and be subject to that particular change in the climate that happened some millions of years ago.
Okay, Donna, I want to actually ask you another question associated with that. Given that you just said that the number of jobs being applied is also rising, I mean, being advertised for sustainable professionals, do you think, given your experience with student recruitment as well as, you know, being part of the Southeast Asia region, do you think that does one need to choose the sustainable career very early on in the education in your plan? Or is it something one can pick up later in life as well when one develops interest? This might be of interest to all our audience who might be doing probably any other engineering degree or anything, maybe even doing a history honors at an undergrad level, but now feel interested in a sustainable career. And so what would you say to that?
Well, in my last point, I was spoken to a student recently who'd studied international politics, and as part of that, they'd done a sustainability module, and that led them to want to do sustainability at a higher level. If you're an engineer, Sanju, he's a Mech Eng student, graduate. Yes. You can get into an energy and sustainability projects. You can get into environmental science, because you can move around when you've got the fundamental knowledge, and if you have the passion, then that will always feed you in your career. Wonderful. And with that I really have to go, but very lovely you all.
Thank you so much, Donna, and great we had the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you, Donna. Okay, so just picking up from what Donna said, that yes, industry needs more people who are sustainable professionals, and they can pick it up anytime. I'm sure a lot of people in our audience is now thinking of a career here. I'm just wondering, I'm actually wanting to ask Vidhi, is the industry, I mean, in your case, the fashion industry, and with it comes the manufacturing industry, is the industry also waking up to sustainable practices? Or is it, yes, I'm making something in khadi, so it is sustainable and it is made? Or is it the actual practice, the way the people are hired, the labor that is being used, is that also changing at the ground level? What is your view there?
So yes, it's definitely changing. I wouldn't say that it's changing as much as we would want to. I think a lot of greenwashing is happening more early on, already in the industry. And what's happening is that, it confuses the consumer, because the consumer thinks that, I'm being conscious and, I'm making a conscious choice. But when greenwashing happens, then it not only discourages the consumer, but it also unnecessarily is, I would say, popularizing products that are not necessarily in line with where you're standing as a company and your brand values. So what happens is it and if you're doing well as a brand and you're claiming to be sustainable, other brands, other startups would do the same, because they're like, oh, this is a great trend that's working. It's a trend, and people are hopping onto it. It's a hot trend, and people are wanting to seem conscious and eco-conscious. And so there is, I think I would say that there is a little bit of holding back that's happening. But I think the people who are, some of the pioneers in the industry, who have been doing this very silently actually for many years, not just the past 10 years, but the past 25 years. I was working with Anamika Khanna before I started my career, on
Okay.
my own as an entrepreneur. And, she's never spoken very widely as
As
her
a
company being sustainable, but she's actually, she's very innovative. We've sat down with artisans on the ground level, and we have come up with a gorgeous line of accessories and shoes and bags from within her collective waste. So once the products that she's trying to sell from the business point of view that is made, and all the scraps that is left over, we have sat and we've made using the talent of local artisans and embroidery techniques, ancient textile techniques, and using innovative fashion techniques. We've really put together woven bags. We've put together embroidery patchwork shoes and tassel accessories and all kinds of really wonderful things that are in line with her aesthetic, and at the same time extremely luxurious, because it's taking tens of thousands of hours of work. And it creates value, because it's a value creating product, and is of course priced at a higher level. So definitely it is something that is happening definitely on the ground level, with certain designers that are really integrating traditional craft and age old ancient Indian techniques, and marrying them into the need of the hour, and that is sustainability, and how it can benefit the planet as well.
Thank you, Vidhi. I think that's where the future also lies going forward, because that's where you would get innovative designs and innovative ways of innovative products as well. Daryl, I really would like you to talk about what I say the 4 or 5 key benefits for an individual when they become sustainable. So that, we really, when they adopt a sustainable lifestyle, what are the 4 or 5 clear benefits that an individual may get for being or leading a sustainable life?
Yes, so one would be, right from the time you get up in the morning, right? Even looking at your own toothbrush or your toothpaste, whether what is your toothpaste made of? Is it of natural substances? Is it a herbal toothpaste? Does it have chemicals or not? So that brings in a health benefit to you. Even we have these, bamboo toothbrushes with bristles that are made of corn, right? So by using these products and natural body products and natural, home cleaners, right? You are using products that are healthy for you and that they are biodegradable in your own system. So you create a lot less filth and unhygienic conditions around you. And coming and as you inculcate all of these things in your life, like even the food that you eat in your home, because I've also been working with supply chain engineering and working on the food supply chain. And it is when a person's a very educational process, when people understand that it's not the actually the food companies or the manufacturers or the growers. Like, you have the growers, then you have the manufacturers, then you have the stockists, and you have the retail people. So that's the food supply chain. But people don't realize the whole, they think those are very big entities and they think they run it. But that's not true. The what you eat on your table at home and in the restaurant, what you call for, that pull drives the entire supply chain.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
so by eating organic, by eating, fresh food, not too oily food, less fried and less, going more towards a green menu, by your changes, so you stop buying certain processed things and they date expire at the retail store. You see, and that message goes back to the manufacturers and then to the growers. So our own decisions on a daily level, they can change the entire food supply chain across the planet. So
That's
people
very
need to,
powerful, Daryl. That's very powerful, which means everyday decisions that we take
right.
will be able to really get what we really want, even the producers to make sustainable options for us.
Yeah, and I have a webinar that's, on my, I mean, I have this video on my YouTube channel, which is titled Small Changes for a Big Impact in Your Health, Food, Farming, and Environment. So, in that, I've told people that, you don't need to be a big environmentalist or try to save the earth and all of that. The small things that you do right from the time you get up in the morning till the time you go to sleep at night, it has got global ramifications. So just, and I say do it at least for your health. Just do it for your health and be bothered about that, that
Yes,
you're doing good things, you're teaching your children good habits, you're teaching them to segregate waste and not to bring in too many things. Just because things are recyclable doesn't mean that you bring them in, right, and
yes.
bring that burden of recycling on it. So try to use things that are natural and that are degradable. So yeah, so people need to understand their choices can change the entire ecological balance and the health of the planet.
Okay, thank you so much, Daryl. I think that was so powerful that each one of us can contribute to this. While at an individual level, this can happen. Sanju, what do you think? I mean, given that you're passionate about this topic, and and given that public policy is something that a lot of universities have a role to play in, where do you think policy can play a part to impact? I know that's a very broad brush question, but still, given that as education institutes, as institutions of higher education, how do you think policy changes, or what are the universities doing to get the right policies across to the decision makers?
Okay, in terms of that kind of an approach, I think each country governments have made plenty of policies to actually bring in down the sustainable stability within their own nations as well. But then the question is, the policies have been inculcated, but how, as we citizens, are following that particular policies? I think that's the drive which is very, very important to understand. And I think just to take a very simple example is, how long have we been trying to say no plastics? I think that's a simple example we can talk about, is no plastics. What we understand within India itself, almost millions of plastics have been gathered and recycled. But what's the amount of recycled of the plastics coming out? The policy says no plastics at all, but then it only says that 14% of what the millions of recycled products that we're getting gets recycled and coming out as well. So who's to be blamed? I think it's citizens. We have to be blamed in terms of what, as House Daryl said, what are we trying to bring in to the house and how we're going to try to dispose that. I mean, just to take an example, I ordered some food from Zomato yesterday, and it was a very nice paper bag, but inside was just plastic. And after the food, I'm like, how do I dispose this? It's not easy. The paper was easy, but the plastics were not easy. So, it's just not about us when we think, it's the entire nation or the entire globe to see how we are going to adapt to these kind of policies. But again, policies in terms of when we talk about a university point of view, and we're giving a balance of sustainable energies where engineers can follow that. We have environmental and sustainable development where economists and environmental people coming and doing these kind of courses. We also have this policy making subjects as well, where policy and research. So it's just not about getting up these policies, but what is the research or getting on towards that and producing those kind of policies back to the nations. So it is very, very important to bring in these policies. But I think what as individuals we need to see is to start following the current policies to see whether how we can contribute in the beginning, and then at the stage of development, and also with the future, bringing in certain policies to get a little more strict to make sure that everyone is able to come up with the kind of practice that they
Practice.
can bring into sustainable development and sustainable lifestyle as well.
Okay. I think you make a very good point, Sanju, and resonating with what Daryl said is about making those right personal choices. We are almost out of time, but I would really want each of you to tell us if there is one thing that you would like to tell people who are about to make their career decisions right now. And given the background of green jobs and sustainability, what would be that one message that you would like to give out to the young people in our audience today? Vidhi, if you could start with you.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the one thing that I would share from my own, personal experience and journey is to definitely, read up about sustainability, why, we're all here together today talking about this. I think it's very important to make decisions from an informative standpoint, rather than just going after a trend, or oh, everyone's talking about it, so let me get into this, or maybe the demand for jobs are going to be higher. I think really try to understand whether or not this is something that you can sustainably feel passionate about, something that you care for, because it's the only way that you can genuinely do some groundbreaking work. uh,
Work.
you know Whatever industry you might be wanting to jump into, I think it's very important to educate yourself first into the UN's 17 global promises, whether it's the Paris Agreement, whether it's whatever UNEP is doing, all the organizations globally, what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, where the world is headed, and why there is this need for green careers and green jobs. I think more than
Thank you, Vidhi.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the why is very important.
Absolutely, the why behind the what. It's important to just reflect and look how passionate you are about this and whether this is a sustainable career for you personally. Thank you so much, Vidhi. Daryl, because if the session closes, we might just have the session shut down. So very quickly, if you can tell us a message for the young audience today.
Yes, giving an example, I'm part of a movement in India called From a Madhouse to a Mudhouse. And that's when I left my, peak of my career in Mumbai in 2010 and I came to Goa, right? And my friends told me that, you're not going to make that much money if you're going to go do organic farming and organic markets and do natural medicine. But it turned out that after the first 6 months that I came here, I was making the same salary. In the next
Wow.
6 months, I was doing double my salary, and in 1.5 year, I was doing triple the salary. So, what is the key here? The key here is if you're the first mover in this new model in a state, you go back to your village and you try to redesign with a group of people. Say that how can we create goods, products, and services, and we follow asset-based community development model. Okay, so for the youngsters, I'm saying just have your dream of how you can make a village self-sustainable, the natural homes, rainwater harvesting, clean energy, everything that's existing in the city is up for redevelopment in a green way in the village. So you can study 2 3 subjects and get into be an entrepreneur really fast. And
That's wonderful. Yeah.
one key point, because I didn't mention something on policy. Public policy generally with government is always dictated, with the big capitalists, and when integrating with these three organizations in Delhi, in our integration, I have some base principles, and it is you can bring in a policy and we will take it, but there are two markers. Is it good for the health of humanity? And is it good for the health of Mother Earth? If you get a negative tick, then that doesn't get approved.
That
Okay. So that's important principle.
Thank you so much, Daryl. And before we run out of time, Sanju, your final comments.
Yeah, I think with putting my experience, I can just again, when I was able to say it with kind of the interest seen from students, I think until 2017-18, the number of students who came for a sustainable energy course, it's very particular on, we were around 4 to 5 numbers from India. I'm talking in terms of India. But today, keeping sustainable energy and environmental and sustainable development, we are over 45 students from India alone,
Oh,
which
wow.
is definitely showing the volume. And that's how the reason where we clearly say there's plenty of jobs available. And I was just doing a little research to understand where my students have gone, which can give that kind of an inspiration to anyone who's looking at environmental, in any kind of sustainable courses. But kind of job searches that they've got into environmental scientist, solar, wind, clear energy industries, organic farming. I think a lot of engineers have gone into organic farming. The pandemic has just brought them into organic farming to say, okay, I'm done with this routine Mondays kind of a life. Let me get into organic family. And no doubt, as what Daryl said, I'm probably making a big fat salary. First year I made only so much, but today we're seeing in the newspaper, or organic farmer husband wife took over to a drive and made 20 lakhs 30 lakhs over water. So that's something that is again going on, and again, which I did mention before, green building construction, with all these kind of, and these are my students, I mean the students have gone to the University of Glasgow, have gone into work into these kind of sectors as well. And again, just to sum it up, I think, and I'm sure we all are so furious at today's WhatsApp and the message which is coming on a petrol and diesel hike. So I think that's a clear indication to say, let's get electrical. And even automotive industry is not at the stage, they're not talking about diesel and petrol engines. They're already going forward towards electrical vehicles production. So, I mean, that's again a clear indication to say, within a no time, sustainable and green jobs are going to be so much in popular and in demand. So make that step right now, and I'm sure everyone will find the right path across the globe and be responsible future citizens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanju. I don't think I would have summed that any better. So thank you all. Thank you, Vidhi, Daryl, and Sanju. We had, I mean, I personally took away so much from this session because of the eclectic mix of people that we had. Daryl for bringing his real life experiences, Vidhi for actually doing something in the space and making it successful, and Sanju for bringing us the university perspective, and of course Donna. So thank you once again, and hope to catch you again soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you
Thank you so
very
much.
much. Okay, I'm sure our audience have also benefited here, and you've really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you very much. And
I would
you're,
actually just like to say one thing, before
yes,
we
Vidhi.
close. From a fashion, standpoint, even though I run a fashion label, I would just want to encourage everybody to consume less, buy less, especially when it comes to clothing. I think there are so many brands out there, marketing themselves. Don't buy into, trends. Educate yourselves, buy value and buy less.
Oh, that's wonderful, Vidhi. I mean, all the sheens of the world where you buy and throw, it's good to get into buying
It's
real,
one of the
beautiful,
most important.
aesthetic stuff and reusing it. A lot of celebrities are also reusing their stuff now just to showcase and make a point that, yes, you can reuse the dress again. So if they can, we can. So let's all do it. Wonderful. Thank you once again, everyone, and
Thank you.
have a great day. And do explore our portal here on Hopin and see what's all is happening. There's a stage, there are sessions happening now, and also there's the expo where our students meet the university. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye. Bye.
All the best. Bye
All the
bye.
best.